Okay, so we're going to try some images. We're going to try some high-res shooting now. And this is with the EM5 Mark III. And I'm showing the screen of the camera, the back screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot in LSF plus RAW at ISO 200. Okay. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use a self timer. Okay, at 4 seconds. And then I'm going to go into high-res shot mode. And I'm going to shoot in 25 megapixels plus RAW and then in 50 megapixels plus RAW. Okay. And I'm just going to take one shot with each. And we're going to compare them side by side. Okay. So this is a similar test to what I did last time. So, slightly different conditions because I'm using this time the 25mm f1.8 Olympus lens. So I've set the self timer, silent mode, okay, just one shot. So the interval length, the interval doesn't matter because I'm only doing one shot. So I'm using a 4-second timer on silent mode. And I'm going to take a shot. First I'm going to focus. I'm going to focus on this little meter here. Right. Using focus peaking. I'm not even sure I really need focus peaking for that. And I'm going to shoot. I've got f6.3 at the moment. I don't think it really matters. An optimal aperture. Let's try something like f5.6. Okay, and 0.3 stop overexposed because most things are quite white on this picture. Okay, so here's a shot in LSF plus RAW. Okay, that's a shot in LSF plus RAW. Let's take a look at it. I've got some other shots of similar things from before. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put my hand in front of the camera so that I know that's the beginning, and I'm going to do it again. Okay, let's focus it again. Okay, well, it's pretty well focused. LSF plus RAW. Right, now I'm going to go into high-res shot mode, and I'm going to shoot same image, same focus, and I'm not going to shoot 50 plus RAW. I'm going to shoot 25 first, so we can compare it with LSF plus RAW. So this is 25 megapixels. And you'll see it says 25 megapixels fine, which is 4 times compression. Superfine is 2.7 times compression. Notice it says 25 meg fine plus RAW. Okay. You can't choose superfine here. You've got fine and that's it. Okay, now I'm going to do the 50 megapixel one. Let's just check the focus. Not really moving it at all. Okay. Okay, let's have a look at those 3 images. Oh yeah, we're not really quite ready yet. It's processing. Okay, so here are the images. Oh, I didn't take the image with my hand in front of it because it wasn't in focus. So the first image is this one. Let's get the image info on by pressing info. Okay, LSF plus RAW, 25 plus RAW and 50 plus RAW. Okay, these are the 3 images. So we're going to look at LSF plus RAW first. LSF plus RAW. Okay. Can we see much detail? 25, this is at 14 times, okay, 14 times. There's not really a lot of difference, is there? I can't see a lot of difference there. Okay, so let's go back again. Make sure we've got the right image. LSF plus RAW, right? And I'm moving the wrong screen. Actually, that's a lot better than the image that I had before. Let's try and bring the exposure on that down. You can see a little bit of detail. It'd be very nice if one could actually zoom in on that a bit more. Okay, here's a 25, and you can see a number that looks like 7770 perhaps on the meter there. The 25 is better. What about the 50? The 50 looks a little better still. Looks like 7770 to me. There's not a huge difference. There's certainly a difference between that and the 20 and the 25. And there's a bit of a difference between the 25 and the 50. Let's go and have a look at something else. Let's have a look at that logic. I wasn't necessarily focusing on that though. That's 20 megapixels superfine. That's 25 megapixels high res. And that's 50 high res. There's definitely a difference between those three. You can't really read that COMBI C24 there. You can there, but it's a bit indistinct. And on the 50, it's quite obvious what it says. Okay. Now that was at 200 ISO. What about if we do it at a different ISO? Okay. Let's do it at a different ISO. Stop looking at the images and not look at the menu. I'm pressing the wrong button. I want to just look at the image. And Charlie's gone into the kitchen. Charlie's gone into the kitchen. Oh, you can't see Charlie. Just as well. Let's do some focusing again. Okay. Let's do some focusing. It's almost too small to see. What I'm going to do is I may do another video where I bring these images in and I get very aggressive magnifying them up and seeing if I can see any details. Right, let's change the ISO. This time we're going to go to a higher ISO. Let's go to ISO 1600. We're going to get some noise here. Okay, so this is with 50 megapixels plus RAW. Okay, and then we're going to go to 25 megapixels plus RAW. Okay, there's Charlie. He just wandered into the frame. I think he thinks he's going to sleep there probably. Okay, and he's coming back. And we're going to go for normal, large superfine. Can you see it? LSF plus RAW, you can see it on here. Okay, with the self timer. I'm using a 4-second delay on everything. And a tripod mounted on the table. Oops. Okay, let's have a look at those three. These are probably not going to look quite as good. Are we LSF plus RAW on this one? LSF plus RAW, 2550. LSF, okay, is the last image. So, let's magnify this up and see what we can see. Center this. Can't see much on there. You can see some figures. and you can see some figures on the two. In fact, actually, the 25 looks a bit better than the 50. That's the 50, that's the 25, and that's the 20. Let's have a look at the ideal logic. Okay, that's the 20. That's the 25. And that's the 50. It's very little difference between the 25 and the 50 on this particular test today. Okay, yeah, the 50 is a little better than the 25, and they're both a lot better than the 20. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do another shot now. Just bring that down. I'm going to go L, if it let me do it. I'm going to do large fine plus raw. Let's have a look. You can't see that on here. Let's do it. Large fine plus raw. Now that's the same fineness, if you like, as now I'm going to do one at ISO 200. That's the same compression as the other images, as the high-res images. Let's just check the focus. I mean, it's dead on. Okay. I mean, it may be better to do more than one image of each, just in case there's any problem with camera shake or anything like that. Okay, so this is a large fine at 200 ISO and at 1600. It's definitely better at 200 than 1600. There's quite a bit of noise on the 1600 image actually. 200. And 1600. Yeah, there's quite a bit of noise there in 1600, 200. Okay, so that's 200 and 1600 large fine. Large super fine. Ooh, at 200. And here we have some of the other images. You'll have to see what they all are now. So I was shooting large fine. So these actually, the second lot of images were all at 1600. So if I go large fine and then compare it with large super fine, it should be next to it. That's at 200 ISO. No, sorry, 1600 ISO. Large, super fine and fine, and not a lot of difference really. Perhaps a little bit. Perhaps the super fine is a tiny bit better. Then there's a 25, and then there's a 50. A lot better. And then there's a 50 at 200 at ISO, which is even better still, I think. Then there's a 25 at 200. And the 20 at 200. Okay. And then if I go to the end, the last image was a large fine at 200. Obviously the 200 images are a lot better than the 1600 images because there's less noise. Okay. Let's have a look at the 1600 images versus the 200 images for the 50. So 440, that was taken, let's have a look at the info, at 200 ISO, and 4041 was taken at 1600. Okie dokie then. Let's see what we get. There's not so much difference. Yes, 441 has some noise, and 440 has much less noise in the dark areas. Okay. But we can see, we're probably going to be able to make out some of that writing when I bring these onto the phone and blow them up a huge amount. It's going to be interesting because we can only use 14 times. But obviously the 25 is better than the 20. And so the interesting thing about the 25, if you were to look at the 25, let's say that's the 25 megapixel image. Okay, where does it say? Down the bottom here, 25 plus RAW. The file size on that is actually smaller than the LSF plus RAW image. Okay, the LSF image is a bigger file than the 25 fine. But of course the 25 fine is a bigger file than the large fine because that's 20 megapixels. That's 20 megapixels fine is the smallest. 25 fine is the second. And large superfine, which is 20 megapixels superfine with a 1 to 2.7 compression notice instead of 1.4, is actually larger than the 25 megapixel file. And then the 50 megapixel file is about twice as big as the 25 megapixel file, which is about maybe 1.7 times as big as the LSF file. If you exclude the RAW, if you just look at the JPEG image, and that's really interesting because there's more detail in this image, in the 25 fine image, than there is in the LSF plus RAW, even though it takes up less data. Okay, so let's have a look at 200 ISO where we were and look at these two, which is better, you know. That's the LSF plus RAW, and that's the 25 megapixel, and that's the 50. Okay, we can't magnify that up on there, but we can do it more on here, and it's going to be very, very shaky. Okay, that's at 50, that's the 25 high res, and that's the LSF plus RAW. Even though this takes up less data than that. And that makes me think that the superfine might be redundant on the camera. I mean, I suppose it's nice to have, I don't like image compression, so I think, yeah, having very little amount of image compression is really good. Let's have a look at the the fines don't look as good as the super fines actually. These are the fines at 1600 ISO, and which one's which? Let's make sure we've got it right. At 1600 ISO, noisy and poor quality print, and it's not much better. It's less noisy, but it's somewhat indistinct. So actually large superfine is better than large fine, and then the 25 megapixel is definitely better than the 20 megapixel fine, and you see when you get to the 50s it's far better. Okay, so just a short experiment there, and it's really worth doing. It's really worth doing yourself, with individual lenses to see what you get. You know, to see what you get with individual lenses. It's definitely justified, let's say at f5.6, which is an optimal aperture, to use the 25mm Olympus. Okay, the 25mm Olympus lens.